listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
We all come together and stand together to serve our veterans. We invest in the latest technology.
We take the time to train the next generation of doctors and nurses. We work together to make sure we heal their bodies and their minds.
This is our mission. More than 300,000 of us working as one, together with families and loved ones. No matter where they live in this country, we'll be there.
We stand strong, united. Stand with us in caring for our veterans.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
Okay.
All right, take it away. Good morning. Good Black Friday.
Oh, that's right.
Today's the day that retail becomes profitable.
Yeah, this is when you make them.
They suffer 11 months, break even, and now's profit season. Thank God.
How much has changed in only a few short years about Black Friday? Black Friday, I couldn't sleep one night about 10 years ago, and one morning, and I got up around 3 o'clock in the morning to go out, and I shopped for golf balls at Dick's. So I went up to the mall, which is a really busy place.
Yeah.
And it was 3:30 in the morning.
2:30. Wow.
Pitch black. And I got there, and the place was packed. It looked like a Saturday afternoon. And people fighting over stuff, women dragging their little kids around.
People used to get online to get a sale item.
Yeah.
Now you want to get online to buy something before they run out of it.
Well, that too.
The cupboards are bare.
The cupboards are bare. But who's going to get out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the mall when you can walk into your den and order it?
Oh yeah, right. That's
why the mall is empty.
Yeah,
one reason.
Yeah, the mall's gone. Well,
probably not even open.
I have to say that I came through Thanksgiving only gaining a few pounds, which was good. But we've got a lot of business to conduct this morning. Most of it political in nature. You being the former political editor of the Freeman, I would like to get back to something, if you don't mind, that appeared in your blog. I know folks that are listening all know that you do a blog. They can find it at The Wire, or they can find it occasionally online.
It's Hugh Reynolds' blog, by the way.
Hugh Reynolds' blog. Hugh Reynolds' blog. Okay. Hugh is, a great blog, by the way.
Thank you.
So Here's so the issue that you wrote about this week was the Albany judge. I mean, it's the last time you and I were on WGHQ. We discussed the fact that bail was not given to the state trooper in who's being accused.
He's indicted, in fact.
Indicted, and we had a pretty raucous discussion about that. I think we even had a couple of calls. Everybody seems to have a position on this, and then a acting, if I'm not mistaken, state Supreme Court judge gave him bail, and not only did she give him bail, but she took a little bite out of the local judge's butt.
I believe it was 2 bites.
2 bites.
She got both cheeks.
Yeah.
And you and I had a little discussion about this over turkey yesterday at your home, and thank you again for inviting me as always. But it didn't really strike me. I really didn't pick up on that as you did, more quickly than I did, because I looked for that judge online. We're in the 3rd. She's in the 3rd judicial district, which includes Albany and 6 other counties in Ulster. And I couldn't find her. And there's 15 judges and 13 trial. There might be 1 administrative judge, but for the most cases, they're trial judges, and nowhere in sight. And I thought, gee, that's odd that a judge would be passing on in a very important issue like this. And so she wasn't listed, but then she was described. She was not described in the initial reports as an acting Supreme Court justice, and then it appeared more accurately, obviously, that she was an acting justice.
I don't ever remember her running.
Not at all.
I know I didn't recognize the name. I didn't remember her running.
I mean, there was some wheels going around up there in Albany.
Maybe an Albany County judge probably an Albany County judge, maybe, that got asked to.
I was looking in the wrong place. Yeah. And that's not unusual for a sitting justice on any court to be assigned temporary duty to sit in a higher court.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
And I think our reaction was these cops, the state troopers PBA that is pretty much funding the troopers' defense, really had to look around to find a judge. They went, there's an old saying: if you can't buy a jury, buy a judge. It's a little bit easier, and that out of nowhere pops up this judge who issues, as you said, reversed the Ulster County judge where the crime occurred, where the alleged crime occurred, and then it would have been enough, although she reversed it on legal. She reversed based on the law as she interpreted it.
Yeah, the interpretation of the law.
Yeah, which is what appellate judges do. Typically, I've covered a lot of these cases where they very rarely comment.
So I didn't think she was intentionally taking a whack at the local judge. I thought she was by way of explanation. This is why I'm doing this, and these are the reasons why. But of course, it reflected on the fact that those same considerations weren't taken into account. And then, what do you make of the fact that no sooner is the ink dry on the release when there's another attorney in there trying to get another person bail, and
Just to return to the judge's decision for a moment, judges are, in my experience, they're pretty careful with language, how they describe a thing, or how they interpret the law, how they enunciate it. And for her, she used very strong language. The word abuse.
Oh yeah.
You don't.
The abuse of judicial
There's a lot
discretion, right?
Exactly. That's serious stuff. And typically they'll walk around it. You'll get the message, but you won't get that particular word. That's so she was out to. It was almost like the PBA wrote it. I read her. I read her decision. And I thought, geez, I've heard this someplace before.
Yeah, well, the PBA's got some decent attorneys that actually. I know one of them that was a trooper.
In Gracia?
A trooper that became one of the attorneys for the PBA.
Wow.
So when left being a trooper, went back to law school, whatever. And so they've got some very knowledgeable people, especially in respect to the law. And again, they have seen this bail reform package that the yo-yos in Albany put in there, and they've seen this, and they've watched this, and they've watched themselves arrest people for serious crimes and have them be given bail. And I mean, there can't be much more infuriating than watching all of these, pretty serious lifetime criminals getting bail, and then along comes a trooper and guy can't get the time of day. That had to be extraordinarily infuriating to them, I would think.
Well, it was reflected in their statements at the first hearing. I think was it November 4th when Rounds sent him back to jail.
Yeah,
they were, like you said, they were furious about it.
Yeah, they unloaded, and they weren't going to go away quietly. And I think that they feel, and again, I can't speak for them. And if there are any troopers listening, it's 331-9255. Anybody cares to opine? There'll be somebody on the board in a second to answer your calls. And that 331-9255, that's our call-in number. Just let it ring until somebody answers. I think they are being held to a higher account, and I don't necessarily have a problem with that.
No, me neither.
But they have to be treated fairly, and that's a trooper should be treated just as fairly as this schmuck in Waukesha who gets out on $1,000 bail after he runs his wife over with a car, and they want him on the streets so he can go back and run her over again. I mean, what?
Well, not
what
to mention the
thinking?
6 people he killed.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. This is
Getting back to our local trooper case. There's an aspect of this that you and I have talked about, and so have a lot of people, and I hear it. It's like the other side of this case, which is to say the behavior of the father, who his name is Tristan Moods. Is it
Goods? I think.
Goods. Excuse me. Goods. His behavior, and there seems to be, and it's as rumors go, the more you hear about it, the more you pay attention because it gets around. It may not be true, but the notion that there's a lot of people. In fact, I was taken to task in my blog for not mentioning in one of my reports that there was also the issue of the father's behavior in high speed, running away from a trooper, and having his daughter, 2 daughters in fact, and his wife in a car. He was doing in excess of 100 miles an hour, and Monica was not wearing a seatbelt.
Yeah.
And that is, by any fair definition, reckless endangerment of children and passengers. That he was not indicted as part of this.
He didn't even get a traffic summons for doing over 100 miles an hour.
I mean,
How did that happen?
Somebody must have gotten on the phone very quickly from Trooper Headquarters via maybe the second floor back December a year ago and told to stand down on that one.
Yeah, so when you say second floor, for those who are listening, you mean the governor's floor.
Yeah.
The governor's office, essentially, you think possibly sent a stand-down order to the state police to not arrest this guy because, the kid he lost his daughter. And so, but that's not, that should not be relevant to whether or not he committed a crime.
I was thinking exactly the same thing. If you lost a child, it's obviously the worst possible thing that can happen to lose a child under any circumstances, and be at least apparently culpable in that. The parents' grief and horror about what happened. But like you say, it's only a mitigating circumstance.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that just based on, just conversations with patients in my office, etc., generally speaking, people feel that in order for justice to be served, all parties to this situation need to be charged. You can't have justice for Monica without her father paying a penalty for his behavior, and so that seems to be the prevailing opinion out there. I don't think anybody's done a poll on this, but my guess would be that the majority of people would say, "Hey, wait a second, it took two to tango here." And those folks that I talk to, we see a lot of people in the course of, in your case, in your dental practice, and I'm all over the place. Yeah.
Talking to people, and people talk to me, and I'd rather listen. My father used to say, "You never learn anything when you're talking."
Exactly.
and they're not necessarily pro trooper.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting. These are people who have looked at what facts they get, and they seem to change, evolve as a story
I've spoken
evolves.
to troopers who are angry about the
yes,
trooper.
and I've talked to cops too, and that cops just shake their head at what the trooper has been indicted for doing. They can't imagine slamming into the back of a car at 100 miles an hour to try to take it off the road.
Now, folks, we'd like to have other opinions besides ours. 331-9255. Give us a shout. We'd like to know, should the father be charged?
Absolutely.
They're taking opinions both ways.
Kid.
But I know we want to hear what the public has to say about this. So come on by. Give us a
There's
shout.
another aspect of this, not to dwell on this for the entire period, but just to kind of examine was a very complicated,
absolutely,
intensely human, personal story. If somebody from the 6th floor actually issued a stand-down order, wouldn't it have come down to the Ulster County District Attorney's office? That's where the trooper was indicted. Do not indict the father. And if the district attorney says, "Wait a minute, this crime occurred in my jurisdiction," we believe that the father acted recklessly and that he should be charged.
Yeah, because the trooper can write the ticket, the district attorney can dismiss it.
Always, what they call in the interest of justice.
Whatever they call it, or the interest of injustice, however you look at it. I saw a very interesting statistic about the district attorneys. Everybody now, all of a sudden, with what's gone on in the country, this massive increase in the crime rate. People now are starting to look at some of these George Soros elected district attorneys and saying, "Hey, what's going on here? Why?" So I saw something this morning in the Wall Street Journal, which is one of the reasons I was a little late, about the San Francisco district attorney.
Whoa.
All right. Last year, on domestic violence arrests, okay? he dismissed 86% of them. Okay, now think about this.
I'm thinking.
The cops are going to a scene of domestic violence, arresting one of the parties, and this DA in San Francisco refused to prosecute 86% of them. That is, let me see, my math is not too good, but I think that 7 out of every 8 would have been dismissed. That would have been 87%.
And cops, unfortunately, in our society, cops go to those calls all the time, and I would think, and maybe 86% the other way, they separate the combatants, take away whatever weapons they have, calm people down, which is part of their job, and they're good at it, and then say, just get together, get some counseling, do something, divorce, and then they walk away. And in this case, for a cop to make an arrest on somebody was in danger, and so then send this person, whether it's a man or a woman, and it's almost always a man, to send that person back to the house. I
think about this. If you're a cop, are you going to put yourself out to arrest this guy the next time? No. I mean, 7 of my last 8 arrests were released. They refused to prosecute.
The guy in the street.
Why am I putting it on the line here? Hey, figure it out. I'll be down at the donut shop. Give me a shout if somebody's dead.
And I don't know about your stats, but the Wall Street Journal is so thorough in its reporting.
This was a Kim Strassel article.
Strassel's pretty good.
Let me just tell you, if you want, I'm going to save it for you because I thought this one was a beauty because she talked about the Democrats having a real problem now with Waukesha.
Why is that?
Well, because this is Dem politics. Their latest issue with bail reform. So she pointed out something else that I wasn't aware of. But the day after this guy mowed down those folks in Waukesha, AOC, Carolyn Maloney from New York, and another congressman from, I believe, Pennsylvania or Maryland, wrote a letter to the New York City police,
Council?
New York City district attorneys in the 5 counties, asking them for some accountability on the extended bail that they're asking for. They want
this guy?
For their own people. Mm-hmm. They feel that the bail is still too onerous. And this is a day after some guy out on bail killed 6 people and injures 42. And now, so what Strassel said, and which I have a tendency to agree with, is this is a complete disconnect. I mean, this woman is, and Carolyn Maloney, another idiot, they are totally disconnected from what is going on when in Nassau County, both Democratic district attorney candidates were defeated on the bail reform law.
Oh.
Yeah. And that's a couple of million, 4 or 5 million people out there. They voted in 2 Republican district attorneys because of the bail reform law. And she's now writing letters and wanting an accounting of why these bail reform, why they're still requesting this heavy bail.
Well, Maloney's up for election again.
And this is a day after the incident in Waukesha. What are you people thinking? But they don't think, and that's what I think Strassel's thing was. The Dems own this, and they're in real trouble.
Well, they doubled down.
Says there was a poll done. 19% of independents think that the Democrats are doing a good job with crime. 19%. they need to poll at least 50%, at least 45% in this county to overcome the Democratic, plurality. And I don't know what it would be around here because, we seem to have some, this seems to be Brooklyn North. But, yeah, I mean, you talk about bad timing. That one was stupid. That's just dumb. Anyway, we've covered that issue.
I think so.
So now I want to ask you a question because somehow, similar to a groundhog, our congressman has come out of a den, and the first thing that I can remember him saying about anything is he thought the oil reserve should be tapped and to lower the price of oil. And I mean, that's apple pie and motherhood. The problem is those 50. Oh, and then this morning, China, who supposedly was going to, the White House announced that China was one of the countries that was going to also make a release from their strategic oil reserve. China announced late yesterday or early this today
Thanksgiving, yeah,
that they were not going to do a release. So now this whole coalition's fallen apart, and we have a release, and for political purposes, to try and get the price down, instead of doing what they should be doing, and that is encouraging production. See, their disconnect on this one is even worse because you can increase production and still not be in favor of fossil fuels. What they
how do you do that?
Well, let me explain. You have two objectives. You have a long-term objective and a short-term objective. So everybody, myself included, has a long-term objective of eliminating the heavy use of fossil fuels. However, you can't just draw a line in the sand and say, okay, as of tomorrow, I'm going to shut down the pipelines. Because this has to be a gradual process. So it's like weighing the scales of justice. As one side goes down, the other side goes up a little. And you're trying to get a balance here. So
Well,
could
I interject for a moment?
Yeah.
How long do we have to wait? I mean, I'll give the Democrat, they've obviously overreached.
I will answer.
We could sit here like civil rights. They kept telling the African American society was being totally abused. Well, wait a while. It'll get better.
I will tell you my opinion.
Act.
Okay, here's my opinion. As we develop alternative fuels,
which is very slow. Your point exactly.
That's the problem. So what you have to do is you have to look at, if you look at your energy needs and you say, okay, we want to encourage the use of alternative fuels. However, we don't produce enough alternative fuel right now.
Meet the demand.
That's correct. So what did they do? They created an artificial shortage of, it's going to be home heating oil. Where do you see your oil bill this winter? Home heating oil and gasoline for cars without having the requisite, I can understand the price going up if we had a surplus of alternative energy. And somebody says, okay, you know what, this is all screwed up. We're producing all this alternative energy. Why haven't we stopped producing oil? What they did, they stopped producing the oil before they had the alternatives. And so now, what do you got? Well, let's put it this way. The cost of regular gasoline has gone up 62% since January 1st. 62%. How sustainable is that going to be?
It leaves you breathless, I know.
Well, no, here's the thing, okay? It isn't the millionaires and billionaires that they keep accusing of everything that's going to suffer. It's going to be the guy in the middle class who now is,
the guy who drives 40 miles to work, who lives in a rural area like ours.
Yeah, and this area in particular with no public transportation. Congressman Delgado's constituents are paying handsomely for this crazy policy. And of course, he jumps in, tap the oil reserve.
And it's just a tap.
Yeah, the word came down, listen, those of you in rural areas, come out now. It's okay to come out and say you want us to tap the oil reserve because
we're going to do it.
We have word from the White House that they're going to do this. So why don't you get out ahead of that parade?
Yes,
So next year, if he runs, he can campaign on, the president responded to my request to tap the oil reserve. I'm here working for you. Yeah, right. Every time, every time I go to a gas pump, I hear people swearing all over the place. So they'll lean over. Hey, you believe the price of this gas? Yeah, I believe it. I'm pumping. I'm watching this thing.
Spins, doesn't it?
Yeah, right. It looks like a slot machine in Las Vegas. Damn.
Well, I found a solution. I drove. I checked my odometer coming up here, and I have driven 38 miles this week.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm getting good gas mileage.
I'm thinking of taking my life in my hands and going to a bike on Broadway.
That's on our list, I think. Isn't
it? Yeah. I mean, hello. Anyway, let's see. So one of the things, while we're speaking about the congressional race, my my big thing right now is seeing how this reapportionment comes down.
When do we expect to see that? Pretty soon, I would think.
It was supposed to be done.
Yeah.
But they didn't fund because they had more whereases and what ifs written into that law to kick it back to the legislature to do it.
Exactly.
I will be shocked if the final, if we weren't once again hoodwinked by our elected officials. They put it on the ballot. We tell them we want a reapportionment commission, and then the wheels come off. They get it appointed. They can't agree on the commissioners. They don't fund it. They finally get funded, and it's late, and they're up against deadlines now. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to come down, but the one thing is for sure is that both congressmen, the 19th and the 20th, live in Dutchess County, which is interesting, and one of their opponents lives in Dutchess County. Mm-hmm. So Dutchess County's coming out like kingmakers here. And I don't know if when they do reapportionment, somebody says, "Hey, what's this all about?"
Actually, in our district, Delgado and his announced opponent, Dutchess County Executive, live within, I bet they live within 5 miles of each other.
That's not possible. Delgado lives in Washington, and he only rents here, and he's seldom here. His children don't go to school here, so. But it's okay. I understand what you mean. He has a alleged address.
No. The point out.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying. Yeah. As you like to say, I understand that, which is your way of telling me that it was a dumb question. But the notion that two congressmen, two candidates running, I guess we'll be pretty sure to have the next congressman from Dutchess County.
Yeah. Even if Maloney loses, and they're targeting Maloney's race, there's no one at this point is safe on the Democratic side because the poll numbers are atrocious.
Maloney's?
No, Biden's.
Well,
and
yeah.
The president can bring you down in a heartbeat, and they're now targeting 3 races in Virginia, where so the prevailing opinion is any Democrat that won by 10 points or less is very vulnerable, and they're not sure they can retain any of those seats because in Virginia, the guy Youngkin, he actually wrote the game plan for them. Run on the issues Youngkin ran on, and this is your template to win. And so you're going to start seeing Democratic responses. I think we're going to hear some more from our esteemed congressman. They're already developing their strategy on how to refute, the Youngkin issue-oriented campaign, what you have to say, how to preempt that strike, etc. And there's a lot of this is like a chess game, you.
Yes, it is.
And
it's pretty cynical chess.
Anyway, we have somebody on the board. So 331-9255. Come on, you sleepyheads. We want to hear from you. Anyway, now we've got 2 issues that you can discuss, and but you want to go on to a third?
I'd just like to touch on one we didn't put on the list, Mario, and I know you're interested in this particular race, but the ubiquitous Zephyr Teachout has returned to the lists. Zephyr has a record. She's 0-4, I believe.
She is going to be the Harold Stassen of the Democratic Party.
Now she lives in, as I read, she lives in New York City now.
Oh wow!
Yeah, she was active over in Dutchess. She was on the town committee, and really kind of settling in as an upstate Democrat, and now she'll settle in where the votes are in New York City. I always liked her. She's running on pretty much the same platform she's always run, which I wonder about her strategy. She's anti-corruption. I don't think the voters, if they were polled, would put corruption in government as one of their top concerns. But that's her particular bag.
I haven't found a candidate running on pro-corruption yet, so anti-corruption, yeah, that's a good one. All right.
Yeah, and she's run on that, and I don't believe she's ever broached 35% of any election she's been in, and perhaps with the exception of the she ran against Faso in 16. I think her record is 14 against Cuomo in a primary.
Yep.
Boom. 16 against Faso in a congressional race.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Then she ran for Attorney General.
Yeah.
In a 3-way race that was winnable. A 3-way with Trish Tricia James beating the guy you just mentioned, the congressman. What's his name again? Maloney. Yeah. I found that I was perplexed by, apparently the rules allow somebody to run for two offices. Maloney ran for attorney general in primary until he lost for his second, I think, and then turned around and ran for re-election and was easily re-elected.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's back in 21, running for attorney general again.
What I would suggest,
it's going to be a crowded field.
What I would suggest is she go over to the Thruway here and get herself one of those motorhomes. Because if you have a motorhome, then you can travel wherever there's a need for a candidate. You don't have to take a permanent residence, which obviously she hasn't. She's moved more in what 6 or 8 years than I've moved in my entire life. But she's a candidate in search of an opening,
Office,
and an office. Yeah. But why bother to rent and buy? Just park your motorhome.
Big
42nd Street in Times Square,
on the side,
reach out, for whatever. You just on the bottom part of it, you just have interchangeable, offices.
All right. We picked on Zephyr.
And
just want our listeners and viewers.
We can have some fun with that
viewers to know that a familiar candidate is back on the ballot.
What do you think her chances are in that race?
I think she had a shot for attorney general in a three-way race before.
Yeah, so you think she might have a shot here?
Yeah, there'll be several, probably New York City Democrats who will primary in June, and if I think part of her problem has been fundraising. These things are extremely, extremely.
Oh yeah,
you're
talking millions here.
Yeah, and the people who. I wouldn't even say by and large, but there are people who contribute to, the deep pockets, contribute to political campaigns who might look askance at an anti-corruption candidate, because that's where the money comes from.
Yeah, and one of the attorney who was one of the attorney who was one of the prosecuting attorneys in the Trump impeachment has thrown his hat in the ring too. He's an attorney from New York City. He was right there, front and center.
Do you think Trump is still the? I'll tell you right off, I don't think so. But maybe I may be ill-informed or naive. That Trump is still. Viable candidate, or the power to influence a presidential election?
Here's what I think. I think the Democrats really miscalculated. They thought they could ride the anti-Trump popularity or the Trump unpopularity into 2022. They tried it in Virginia.
Yeah.
They tried it in New Jersey. They tried it in Minnesota, and they got their butts kicked. So I think people have moved on from Trump. And as a consequence...
You don't think that Trump is still popular? They've just...
Oh, no, he's popular with a certain segment.
Very small segment.
But the guy in Virginia showed how to not alienate those folks, but still... not cozy
Trump.
up and embrace Trump, and I think that's the key. But these folks have they were riding on all you have to do is say I'm not the Trump or I'm not a Trumper, and you're going to win. Going away. All of a sudden they found out that the electorate maybe is a little smarter and a little more sophisticated than that. And so now they have to do a mid-course correction. and that's what I see happening across the country, and as a consequence, the need to now prosecute Trump and beat up on Trump isn't as urgent as it was, because it was never about criminal behavior. It was always about political behavior. And so we don't need to discredit this guy anymore. He doesn't matter in these elections.
I ran into a guy. I told you the story, but I won't tell the whole story to listeners because it got a little kinky at the end. But I ran into this guy. We were both waiting for our wives to stop spending our money in Rhinebeck, which you can do pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of chatting with each other, and you kind of at least I am kind of careful how or who I talk to about politics these days, because people are so caught up in one side or the other, and they get emotional about it, and sometimes they get kind of ugly, and it's just not worth the hassle. But this guy and I, around the same age, this guy and I we're having a discussion about the recently completed, the recent Virginia election. So I said to him, I was kind of looking for some common ground here. We were of different persuasions, it was apparent. But in any case, we're having an intelligent discussion. Well, I use it loosely in my case, but
nice to be able to have a discussion.
Exactly, it was kind of refreshing to meet a stranger, talk about politics, and not be attacking each other, and listening to each other. It was an old-fashioned conversation. And so I said to him, I said, I think one of the things that may have come out of the Virginia governor's election was that all the big hitters on both sides, the president, the vice president, just about everybody on the Democratic side, big hitters on the Republican side, although not Trump himself, but people who represented that faction of the party, didn't seem to matter at all. The people of Virginia voted in their own self-interest. Like you say, they're more sophisticated than maybe the political players think they believe they are. And I found that a positive thing.
Very refreshing.
Yeah.
Very refreshing. That the trolls in D.C., who are sending out the messages, say this, do that, say this, do that. This is what happens. I've been involved in a lot of races, you.
Yeah, I know.
The
Me
word
too.
comes down, and people weren't buying it. It was really cool that folks made up their own minds, and I think that's a very positive for this electorate. Very, very positive. And I think am I happy that it appears that the Republicans will win back the House? Yeah, I'm happy, because here's how I see it. When you have a 6-vote plurality in the House and you have a tied Senate, I don't know what your definition of mandate is, but that's not my definition of mandate, okay? You don't have a mandate, okay? You have a mandate when you have a commanding lead in the House and in the Senate and in the presidency.
Mario, we've had that in our lifetimes, and it doesn't seem to make an awful lot of difference. What I like about close majorities is that every person's vote counts.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, I can remember when your Republicans in Ulster County had such overwhelming majorities. 28-5, 26-7, things like that.
Great.
It was nuts, and they could marginalize their own people. Because they didn't need the votes.
Exactly.
And in Washington, you get somebody like the senator from West Virginia and the senator from Arizona. 2 people out of 100 can move that needle or stop that needle from moving in a certain direction. And I think the people who manage the game have to take that into account. Where if you had your kind of I mean, if you're a Republican and you get your people back in with a mandate, they've got a lot more people. Well, let's see where that goes. I'm not exactly convinced the Republicans have any kind of a platform. Their platform seems to be to stop anything Democrats put up there.
You know, I think that'll develop. Right now, there's no need for a platform because you're just trying to prevent these people from bankrupting the country.
Yeah.
But I mean, eventually, there's. I mean, I think crime is going to be huge. I think crime is going to be astronomical. I saw some figures in this morning's Wall Street Journal that are pretty astounding in terms of crime. Just as an example, California voters decriminalized shoplifting. So they had a ballot measure. So now, under $950,
you can just pick it up and walk out of the
shoplifting is a misdemeanor.
Well, it was never a felony.
It was over $1,000.
Oh, yeah.
So now or whatever. But now, what do you got? You got 80 cars rolling up to a Nordstrom's and cleaning the place out. They showed up with hammers and whatever, breaking into jewelry cases. They walked out with hundreds of thousands of dollars of, maybe even millions of stuff. Then I was telling you about the San Francisco group, the district attorney in San Francisco. They had 131 arrests for felony domestic violence during 1 quarter of 2020. And they dismissed 113, 86% of them. They dismissed them. I mean, people are getting a little, unhappy about what's going on.
So you think that this is going to be a ripple up type of phenomenon, because Congress can't do much about that, but the people who are voting in California for Congress, you think they're going to vote against their overwhelmingly Democratic
now I know
congressmen?
I know that you say that Congress can't do a lot about it, but what's happened is a lot of the progressives, in order to make political points, have gotten out ahead of this parade. Bail reform, this reform, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, and all. So what's happening is they foolishly made this an issue that they can't win, because it says here in the Wall Street Journal this morning that voters now trust Republicans over Democrats to handle crime by a 22% margin.
All right, that's a big number, but how does it translate to domestic disputes abuse where they're letting almost 90% of the arrested people go? I don't get that connection yet.
Yeah, I mean, what happens is what happens is there are bills in Congress to reduce, eliminate bail, eliminate incarceration, all these things, and the candidates are either going to have to say yay or nay on them. So I think what they've done is, by not actually being quiet, I think that they never should have made this an issue, but they did because they thought it was a winning issue, and now it turns out that it's a losing issue, and you can't, and you own it. You own it.
All right.
So, I think it's only going to be one. I think the biggest one is going to be the economy, the price of,
Yes, yeah.
The problem with this, the price of food and gas and the stores being out of things and back ordered and whatever, is that affects everybody every day. And it's hard to escape the fact that since Biden became president and the Democrats took control of the Senate, that you're paying almost twice as much for a tank of gas. And that is upsetting people.
So the only shot I get at Biden next year is voting against Democrats to make
exactly.
my voice heard.
You want to tell people you're unhappy.
Yeah.
Listen, that's been time-honored tradition. That's gone on forever. So I'm a little annoyed this morning, that we haven't gotten one call. We talked about some controversial stuff.
Well, I think we need somebody
331 9255 331.
First of all, I can see the phone ring in the other room, and I think that everybody's out shopping. That's where everybody's at.
Oh yeah, it's Black Friday, and people are out.
Target opened at 4:00 this morning.
They did?
Yeah, and Walmart didn't close. Well, I think they're open 24 hours a day.
Oh my God!
Target opened at 4 in the morning.
Wow!
I know. That's crazy.
Holy moly! Well, let's go. I hope that this is a great Christmas season for the retailers. They've reported good earnings, so we'll see. I did most of my shopping already.
Oh God, you're one of those?
I was afraid that they were going to run out of stuff.
You did it online?
I did some of it online and some of it locally.
Did you have a hard time finding anything, or was it any of?
I did. No, I go to Barnes and Nobles. I like to buy my kids books and things, and but you have to order stuff. Their inventory is way down. It used to be you could walk down the aisles and there were probably 10,000 books in that store. Now the store's about a third the size.
Yeah, it's a much smaller store.
So they're taking orders. They're taking orders.
And they're in the old Olive Garden now? Is that where they're at?
Yeah, the old Olive Garden.
So that's considerably smaller than the other one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not that crazy about the new Barnes & Noble, though. I like Barnes & Noble, and I buy books there. And I buy books on, my wife, for the most part, buys them for me, books on Amazon, etc. But I like the lounge in the old one. They had the very comfortable little reading areas, and I'd pick out a book, one I might be interested in, and kind of flip through it.
That was their whole business concept.
And now it's gone. There's no place to sit down in the new one.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But, they're taking orders, and at least you got a live person you can talk to. They can look up something for you if you're looking for a particular author or something. So it's good. And, I don't buy clothes anymore because they always got returned. Nothing ever fit right, So.
Had nothing to do with your eating habits, does it?
No.
You don't go to Woodbury Commons? That place is awesome.
Yeah, it is.
They got so many restaurants down there now, too.
Oh, yeah.
There's quite a few of them. It wasn't like it was 20 years ago.
No.
There's just as many restaurants as there are clothing shops.
The last time I was in Woodbury, they had store limits, and they would only let so many people in the store. This was only about a month ago.
Oh, yeah, they're still doing that.
Yeah,
so
Nike,
they're still online. And half the
store.
stores, you got to wear masks still.
Yeah. But you got to wait online. And,
right. You should have seen it during COVID. People were standing outside in the cold. They'd only let 6 or 7 people in the store. So some of the bigger stores like Nike, North Face, and we would walk right by and be like, there was never a line at the Gap. There'd never be a line at Old Navy or some of the other stores. And you'd have to pick and choose your stores because, you would be outside in the winter freezing. All right, why don't we go to break, and then we'll come back with birthdays, and then we'll...
we have announcements and birthdays.
Okay, we'll be right back.
listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
This is Greg Chorvis, and once again, the WGHQ Happy Christmas Fund is asking you to help the needy this holiday season. For the last 50 years, the WGHQ Happy Christmas Fund has helped less fortunate families have a happier holiday. Look for our collection boxes at the local branches of the Ulster Federal Credit Union, Rondout Savings Bank, the Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, Ulster Savings Bank, and at the Kiwanis Ice Arena in Sorgenes. Thank you very much, and have a happy and Merry Christmas.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, I'm Ruth Quick from Town of Ulster. I support Kingston Community Radio, and you should too.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
No, it's actually Dr. Stanberg that does Medical Monday, and then Dr. Ed Alio does it once a month, does the fourth Monday of the month. Well, we got a doctor birthday. Is it for today?
He's the winner.
Is he? Oh, great. Did break all the suspense.
Oops.
You're supposed to say that in the end.
Oh, am I on?
Yeah, you see the light?
No, I didn't see it. Okay, here we go. So here's Friday, November 26th. We have a couple of entries into the for the birthday. And so the first one is, please wish a happy birthday to Dr. Paul Bushkuhl, from your friends and family and all those you torture at the Wound Care Center.
It says that?
That's what it says.
Oh, my God.
And they put torture in parentheses. That must be his employees.
It must be.
And then there's a please wish a happy birthday to Hillary Staten, your friends at People Place. We hope you enjoy your special day. All right, Hillary, Dr. Paul, the winner of the Boys Dairy Milk House famous cow pie for today is Dr. Paul Bushkuhl. So you can pick up that cow pie, Dr. Paul, at 62 O'Neill Street in Kingston, New York. And that comes to you courtesy of the Boys Dairy Milk House and Kingston Community Radio. And happy birthday to all. Now, tomorrow is November 27th, and we have a couple of birthdays to announce for November 27th. So the first one is, please wish a happy birthday to Aileen D'Amico from your friends and family. Our second entry is, please wish a happy birthday to James Rutledge from your friends at the Wellness and Healthy Lifestyle Club. And the winner for tomorrow, November 27th, is Aileen D'Amico. Congratulations, Aileen. And you are the proud winner of a Boys Dairy Milk House famous cow pie. You may retrieve that at 62 O'Neill Street in Midtown Kingston. And congratulations and happy birthday to all. We do have a couple of announcements today. Well, no announcements? All right. Let me see. Oh, okay. The Snowcake? Okay. The Sister Act. December 3rd, both of the... Okay. So the Sister Act Junior is being performed at the J. Watson Bailey Auditorium on November 15th. Ticket sales begin on the 15th, close December 1st. It's December 3rd at 7 p.m., December 4th at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m., and December 5th at 2 p.m., and it's called the Sister Act Junior. It's is
Whoopi Goldberg going to be in it?
It doesn't say. It's
Okay.
it says it's being presented through special arrangements with, and then it goes blank. So
Maybe she
anyway, we're going to have a really nice show. And tickets are $7 for adults and $5 for children and seniors. No tickets have to be purchased in advance. Nothing will be available at the door. Seats will be assigned for each show. Well, I guess they're going to keep a distance. And this is J. Watson Bailey production, right?
Yeah, that's.
That's wonderful. I love when the kids do that. And of course, you've got the Kingston Uptown Business Association Snowflake Festival.
Yeah, they're coming on the air Tuesday, so you don't need to
Oh,
read
that's
that.
good.
Hey,
That's
guess
good.
what? You guys got your first caller.
We have a caller. Finally, somebody woke up. All right. Good
And he's
morning.
not- and this one's not shopping, apparently.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. Another great show as always. And no, everybody is not out shopping. And if in the earlier hour you was talking about gas prices and stuff. Well, if you remember, I don't feel sorry for these people because Biden was saying your gas prices will go up, and he kept his word about that. They almost doubled. And
He's a man of his word.
yeah, right. Okay. But I tell you what, they talk about taking this release from the reserves and stuff. Let's go back and finish the Keystone Pipeline. Let's go back and have them start drilling again. And why should we pressure OPEC to produce more when we have the ability right here in our own country? And if people don't see the logic in that, then they're going to get exactly what they deserve. Higher prices on everything. Because just about everything in this country moves by trucks or whatever. And if they got to pay more, we got to pay more.
Oh, yeah. Now, I have an interesting question for you. Do you remember, I believe it was back in 2004, 2005, when we started adding ethanol to fuel to reduce the amount of fuel, that we were consuming, the amount of oil and fossil fuel. We went to some biofuels. So in your opinion, does ethanol increase or decrease the cost of the finished product at the pump? Do you have any idea?
I would probably say it's going to increase the cost at the pump a little bit because you're also going to start raising corn prices and stuff because a lot of people use corn for feed. A lot of people like corn, especially corn on the cob and everything like that. And
cows love it.
Right. And but
Okay.
you're adding another process to refining the gasoline.
So let me give.
Now you have to mix that in with it also.
I'll give you the answer to the question.
Right.
When we first did it, ethanol decreased the price of gas of the gas at the pump because it was cheaper than fossil fuels.
Okay.
Right now, ethanol increases the cost of your gasoline by 20 cents a gallon because there's such a demand for it, they can't keep up with it, and the prices have skyrocketed for ethanol. So it increases the cost by 20 cents a gallon right now. And that's what happens when governments try and control the price of things. They have
Right.
no control. They think they do, but they don't.
Well,
So-
look at your health care costs. Government's getting their hands in that, and where's that going? That's skyrocketing. And if you take a look at anybody who is on Medicare, you get a nice Christmas, New Year's present this year. Your Medicare costs are going up 14.9%.
Yep.
And but hey, they're giving you a 5.9% raise in Social Security to balance it out.
Yeah.
How nice of them.
Well, they're giving it one hand, taking it back with the other, but that's, again,
Right. And I tell you what, a lot of our local leaders better beware because you got that far left fraction that going to be influencing a lot of your local Democratic primaries this upcoming year. And they better look real close at the candidates because if you don't, you're going to get some real nutcases in there. And hey,
As opposed to the ones we have
I don't agree
already.
with Kevin Cahill on a lot of what he does and stuff, but you're better off with a devil you know than a devil you don't. And but one thing I do like about Kevin Cahill is he does not sling mud. He talks issues, and that's what I respect of the man. I don't vote for him, but I respect him.
all right.
But no, you guys always have a great show, a lot of great interesting topics and stuff. And I tell you what, even when the Republicans had both houses back in the first 2 years of Trump presidency, they couldn't get nothing done.
Yep.
And so having all three houses and stuff does not necessarily mean you'll get something done because then they start getting nitpicky, can't agree. Hey, let's go back and remember one thing. Once the election is over, you're there to work for the people. The parties needs to be separated, go back to working for the people, doing what is right and just for the people. Protect our borders, help us keep the costs down and everything else on what it costs to live. Remember what the power of a buck is and remember how much a dollar is. You get all your political leaders now that get in there who do not know the meaning of a buck. To them, it's just a number. Oh, let's throw $3.2 trillion at this problem. Let's throw $8.9 billion at this problem. It doesn't work that way. Somebody's got to pay those costs. Free is not always free.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for calling. You made our day.
Well, sir, gentlemen, you both have a great show and everything else. I look forward to listening to you guys when you're on and stuff. And, hey, you guys do a great job, and we appreciate you being there, especially the day after Thanksgiving when everybody still should be kind of stuffed at this time of the morning.
Yeah, I was trying to shake, indigestion.
Right. Well, I hope all you guys had a happy Thanksgiving and keep up the good work and we'll keep listening out here in
Thanks for the call.
KCR land. Have a great day, gentlemen.
All righty. Thanks for the call. So I have this gentleman brought up something, and I just meant to ask you about this earlier, and I forgot. But in New York City,
oh, yeah, I was thinking about that too.
The city council has proposed that folks who are not citizens but are residents of the city be allowed to vote. I believe they want people who are quote-unquote legal residents, people with green cards, although they're not citizens. There are 800,000 of them. They want
in New York?
Yeah, and they want them to be able to vote in the New York City elections for city council, for mayor, those kinds of things. I mean, you're an astute political observer. You've covered this stuff for decades. Where do you think? Where's that going to go? I mean, it'll probably pass in the city because they're nuttier than fruitcakes. But what do you see? And do you see any of that stuff getting exported up here? Because remember, a lot of these folks who are now voting here, cut their teeth in New York City.
Well, it'll probably only go one way. If you allow non-citizens to vote, say green card people, the next step has to be people without green cards. And then the next step is illegal immigrants. And then anybody can vote, which dilutes the franchise of everybody who is a citizen.
Maybe we can set up registration booths as they cross the border and get them registered, to vote.
Ultimately, you won't have
across the river.
Ultimately, you won't even have to register to vote.
Yeah.
It's the world turned upside down is what it is, and I don't know if it'll seep up here, but I think and I think the number of so-called New Yorkers coming to Ulster County in recent years, particularly since 9/11, is probably it's probably exaggerated to some sense. It might be in the there's about 120,000 voters, registered voters, in Ulster County. If those folks are 12,000, that's a big number. That's half the size of the city of Kingston.
But I think a lot of them have weekend homes here, and they've just chosen to vote here rather than in the city.
They feel, and I
vote
think
counts more.
Vote counts more.
So that's to me that's the scary part because.
But the notion that a city like New York, which is the biggest city in the country, will take seriously to the point of offering, I don't know if it's in bill form yet, but will take seriously or give serious consideration to the notion of non-citizens voting says something pretty important about the trends of the country, and all you have to do is go into Texas and on the border. What was 1 million illegal immigrants came across this year, or 2 million? Some humongous number.
Awful.
That number pales on, and then those folks spread out all over the country, but primarily in Texas. I would think Texas would be the first to fall by having people who have no connection. They're not legally Americans yet, and can vote. And what about the generations of immigrants who, including our forefathers and mothers, who came to this country and went through the arduous process, and sometimes expensive, of becoming proud American citizens? That doesn't seem to. It seems to matter a good deal less now. We have a caller.
Sure.
We can do that on our own.
Yeah. Good morning, caller. Hello.
No, I think he's gone.
Oh. Hello. Do we have a
Good
caller?
morning.
Are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Well, go ahead.
Good morning.
You mentioned about the Republican Party. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Oh, well, I think you're being a little optimistic about the resurgence of the Republican Party. If you see what's happened around here locally, you criticize the city of Kingston and what's going on, and yet the Common Council went 8.5 to 1 Democrat again this year, and the Democrats overwhelmingly took over the county legislature. It was, 12 to 13, now it's 16 to 4 or something. They had nobody to run for the Supreme Court judgeships. They had nobody to run for the family court judgeship. They had nobody to run for the controller's job. So the Republican Party doesn't really have a lot of soldiers to fight the war.
Yeah. And we wholeheartedly agree that the Ulster County Republican Party is not doing well, and I'm a former chairman, and I can tell you that it's not doing well.
There's not a lot of guys in the bullpen.
Yeah. However,
there is no bullpen.
Yeah, there's no bullpen. There's no minor league either. But but we're talking, in terms of resurgence nationally, and there are some interesting statistics. Okay, so in Ulster County, in the last election, Antonio Delgado won the county by 19,000 votes against a candidate that he outspent 20 to 1. Okay. Now there are 19,000 more Democrats than Republicans, which means that he broke even on the independents and carried the Democratic vote, and that was it. And 20 to 1. On the other hand, Mark Molinaro ran against Cuomo, and Cuomo only carried Ulster County by 5,000 votes. And that's very significant, which means that the electorate in Ulster County is not as partisan as one may think. And, of course, the reason that the Republicans got essentially destroyed on the legislative races was because you can't win an election without an issue. So tell me what their issue was. So it is, if they had done their job and they had developed issues that they could have taken to the public, they could have done a lot better. But
all they had to do was run against this IDA, and they could have won the legislature.
Well, maybe that would have been an issue. It's hard to say that's all they could have done, but I agree that they had no issues. All right? They sent me a brochure for a candidate in my district, and the only thing on the brochure was that a picture, and they didn't even have a picture of him, which is crazy. I've never seen a campaign brochure that didn't have a picture. But, and again, I don't know where this came from, or if they have a decent thought process. But don't count them out. I think if they can get some new blood in that party, they can have a resurgence, because the people in Ulster County are not as partisan as you would think. Now, the city of Kingston, they're a little nutty, all right? But
hey, it's my town.
I know. But once you get outside of the city of Kingston, people are pretty darn bipartisan, in my opinion. And again, as I said, I was a former chairman, and I did spend a little time.
Let me ask you, Mary, if I may interrupt for just a moment. You were former chairman about 10 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 years ago. You put together a team and you took over the legislature against the rather steep odds that you faced. And you said that, and I know we've probably talked about this, but you said that what the Republicans need is a platform, something to run on. What did your team run on even 10 years ago?
You know, I don't remember specifically, but we had about 3 issues that we identified. So what we did was we did a poll. We found out what was important to the folks, and we developed issues based upon that. And then what we did is we didn't send out the pretty postcards,
flyers.
And flyers. Those get sold to you by the folks who are selling them. They make a ton of money doing that, but they're not that effective. People get those postcards and throw them out. Half of the times they don't even read them. What we did was we did a newspaper like.
I remember that.
Yeah. We did a newspaper like and
mailing.
Yeah, a mailing, and there are tremendous rates for newspaper type things. We got them printed for about 2 or 3 cents a piece, and what we did was we put our countywide candidates on the front cover and the back cover, and on the inside we printed them depending on the district, on the legislative district. So I was able to target those legislative districts with the same issues but different faces.
Speaking of the legislature, and I don't know if the caller's still there, but jump in if you want to. Now with the Democrats, 16-7, which is which I believe is a veto-proof legislature.
It is. They have to make sure they maintain all 16 votes, and I don't see that happening.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Does that put the executive in a different situation than he has now, where with 12 you can pretty much scare up 12. 16's by design.
I think I think that the executive may have to. The executive was skating because he was able, and his office was able, to manipulate through, because they could never mount a veto override because you had 11 Republicans, you had 12 Democrats, and now I think that the chairman of the legislature, if they can control their 16 votes, becomes a player in what happens. I think that,
and thereby the legislature,
and as a consequence the legislature, yeah. And again, a lot of it has to do with whether or not the legislators. One of the questions I always asked of every candidate that came to me and wanted to run for the legislature, the first thing I would say to them is, have you read the charter? And I can tell you that in over 50% of the cases, I had to give them a copy of the charter, tell them to read it, and then come back. Because I don't know, even now, that some of the legislators that have been there for 10 years have read the charter and understand the charter and understand their responsibilities under the charter. And I'll give you a prime example. They are allowed to conduct hearings.
They have subpoena power, don't they?
Yep. They have subpoena power, and they don't, and it's never been used. No. When is the last time you saw a hearing? Here's what they have. They have committee meetings. Those are not hearings. Okay? A hearing is when you bring in, you focus on an issue, you bring in folks, and you have them testify. And
under oath.
Under oath. That's how you develop the issues that they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be responsible for.
I think the RRA, which one of the callers raised, is a good example of that, in that it's controversial, and there's an oversight. The legislature, as you know, has oversight. In fact, appoints
The IDA and the RRA.
All right, both those. You bring, as you suggest, you hold a hearing under oath, and you bring people in, and not just from the RRA, but from other experts, other counties who have done things. I think they did under Eve Walter. I thought they did a pretty good job, pretty responsible job of examining the mental health issues in this county, or serious lack thereof, and bringing in all kinds of the things that mental health impacts, not just the person who may be afflicted with issues and needs treatment and constant treatment, regular treatment. It isn't like you and me going in for a toothache. It gets fixed, and then you leave. And they delved into the biases against people with mental health. It's treated differently, maybe out of a fear or aversion to people with those issues, and it should be on an equal par. There was almost nothing said when the former executive dismantled that department. Mental health department dismantled in the teeth of an opioid crises, and now they're slowly rebuilding it. But the example set down, I believe, can speak to some of the issues that you raised, and the RRA, IRA, yada yada. That there is a way. In fact, it's in the charter. There is a way for the county, for the legislature to exercise its authority and its responsibilities. These people show up once a month, twice. They go to the committee meetings. They go to regular meetings. Some of them don't even get out of their beds. They can Zoom it. Now, the last legislature meeting I went to, there were 19. There were four Zoomers, so they didn't make it. Maybe for health reasons, but for them to act and to open up a meaningful discussion of issues right now, and by the previous executive, the executive sets almost the entire tone of county government, and it's lopsided. And I don't think it was ever intended to be that way, even though post jail there was a demand. And
the problem was
for strong leadership.
The problem was the legislators never understood this charter.
Most of them never read it.
The ones that were elected post charter, and I've had a number of conversations with Dave Donaldson about this, because essentially, he was when the charter passed, the Democrats took the legislature, and Dave became the chairman, and he essentially allowed the executive branch to do whatever they wanted. And I'm not going to single him out; he was the chairman, but there were another 23 of his compatriots 22 who sat around and watched this happen. And to be honest with you, this is a legislature, and I sat on the legislature at one point in time, but this is a legislator that just prefers to watch things happen. They think that is their role in this government. And I have to tell you, as you know, I went to the University of Buffalo, and I have a degree in history and government. And I believe that one of the failures of our educational system is that we teach history, but we don't teach government. I don't know how much government is taught at the school level, but the way to start it is to have governance in schools, to have and understand elections and campaigns and issues.
Let me inject this. This is by no means, this is a Band-Aid at best, but the American Legion has had a program since the 30s called Boys State, now there's Girl State.
Yep.
And where they high school juniors are sent to it's down on the southern tier, I believe. It's to a college during the summertime, and they participate in government. They learn government, and these young folks, and they're very impressive young people. They usually they're usually pretty much blue chip kids, but they come back. And like you said, they never even heard of anything like this, how government works in their schools. But they come back and they to a person, they're amazed the way government works and how much they learned about meeting in a group, cooperating with their fellow boys or girls staters from all over the state of New York, and coming up with programs and ideas and debating them and adopting some and rejecting some, and the interpersonal relationships that they forge sometimes for a long time. That the kids that they met at Boys State are friends for forever, and that's not taught. You talk about history. There is an underappreciation of our own history here. I talk to elected officials who have really no idea and don't seem to really care what the history of their own communities are.
Huey, history has now become political. We're trying to rewrite the history of this country because we didn't like the way it turned out, or we didn't like what occurred. That is, in my opinion, blasphemy. The most important thing about history is you learn from your mistakes. We are now trying to change that dialogue to where we condemn those mistakes instead of learning from them. And let me just tell you, that does not work. That does not work. And I think that one of the failures is that, again, the curriculum is established, and there's no part of this curriculum that introduces the theory of differences of opinion and political discourse. And as you can see, this has now gone off the tracks in terms of the inability to even have a political discussion between people and not walk out of there as enemies. And again, to me, that's a gross failure of the educational system. And the reason is, in part, I have to hold the teachers accountable for that, because they have preached a very one-sided approach to governance and to education.
Well, Mario, I wouldn't give the teachers a pass on this, but teachers, you mentioned curriculum. The teachers don't make up curriculum; they teach it, and that comes out of Albany, in our state, the curriculum. And now, of course, they may be taught similar things in college and learn things, but. This debate's going on all over the country now, and in particular with this, what do they call it, in relation to racial relations.
Oh yeah,
I can't quite come up with it.
Critical race theory.
Yeah, critical race theory. That's a very important a new direction that we're headed in, and whether parents have a real say in what's being taught their children. I know my kids would come home sometimes every now and then with some kind of theory that they were hearing in school. They said they're teaching you that in school, and we would talk about it at home, and sometimes it was a good thing. Maybe it was a reform of some sort or a different look at history. I like to think of myself as kind of a historian in the sense that I write the history of my community. I have for 50 years. The first draft, as they call it, the first rough draft of history is journalism. But anyway, I'm trailing off here. We've got about 10, 15 minutes, Mario.
Can you share that story that you told me yesterday about Senator Wicks? Do you remember?
Oh, it had to do with the death penalty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I interviewed Senator Wicks, the late Senator Wicks, who's been gone for some time now. But he was a power, not my time, but from I think he was senator from 1926 to 56.
He was so powerful he got the thruway
on this side of the river.
On this side of the river, and this guy was he was a kingmaker.
He was the go-to guy. And he got the rank of his last big act.
Our senator,
and he was our senator, and. It was the 100th anniversary of the Freeman edition, and somebody said, "Why don't you talk to Artie Wicks? He's still around." He was very much around. Anyway, the story he told. This has to do with the recent outrage of this guy shooting here in Ulster County, a drunken, what have you, shooting at a deputy sheriff with a high-powered rifle.
Yeah.
And I believe he's being defended by Joe O'Connor.
Yeah, wants him out on bail.
Anyway, Wicks tells a story about he was acting governor. He was majority leader of the Senate, so he was like next in line. And the governor was out of town or out of the state. And then automatically,
the lieutenant governor wasn't available, so he became the acting governor.
So he became acting governor, and he said a man was convicted and scheduled for execution, and condemned for killing a police officer in a robbery or some sort. A young man, typically in his 20s. So his mother somehow knew Wicks through passing or whatever. And when she saw that Wicks was acting governor, she went to Albany and pleaded for her son's life to have his sentence.
Yeah.
I don't know if Wicks had the authority as acting governor to do that. He might have. But anyway, Wicks gave her a hearing, and he told me the story. He said she was a real Norman Rockwell grandmother type with the white hair and the bun and the whole thing. Just an ordinary mother trying to save her son's life.
Sure.
And he said, I sat in the governor's office, and my aide, my secretary, sat with me, and as a witness. And she came in and she pleaded for. He's a good boy. He got with bad company. At least I'll be able to visit him in prison. And Wicks said he sympathized with her and listened to her, escorted her to the door with his arm around her shoulder, and said, "I'll do what I can." And his secretary, after she left, the secretary said, "Artie, you're not going to commute that guy's sentence, are you?" And Wicks told me, he said to the guy, "What, are you kidding? He killed a cop. He's got to burn." Those were the mores in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And now?
Now, cops are open season.
Jeez.
You can shoot a high-powered rifle at a deputy sheriff, and
thank God he was so drunk he couldn't hit the guy.
Yeah, that's right.
Or wound him.
Yep.
I think it was an AR-15.
Yeah, he could have done some damage. He could have hurt somebody with that gun. I know. So, I know you wanted to talk about a little bit about the new traffic pattern on Broadway.
Oh yeah, I don't know if we're adjusting to it. I avoided Broadway for so many. It was a year or two they were working on Broadway.
Oh yeah,
you couldn't even get on.
I still avoid it.
Yeah, you couldn't even get on Broadway. But the old Broadway was pretty grim. I hated going down Broadway. I could just feel my car falling apart every other bump. But I don't know if people are adjusting to it or just adjusting. I don't go on Broadway. It's a nutty traffic pattern. I don't know what the heck they had in mind. It's Greenkill Avenue's times 10.
Maybe
a pattern developing around a town for our roads now.
Maybe we could get the alderman at large on, or the mayor, to explain to us how they're going to handle snow. That's my biggest concern is, it's okay to put lines, yellow lines and white lines, and do this and do that, but an inch of snow, half an inch of snow, and they're gone, and you can't see them. And now what happens? Now all of a sudden, Broadway is this massive, road, wide as can be, because you can't see where the parking spots are painted. You can't see where the middle line is painted.
Well, I think one quick and easy answer, which probably doesn't address your question, is to plow the goddamn road.
You can plow it, but half an hour later, the lines are obliterated. And that's why I have a problem with lines. I mean, you got sidewalks, you can see sidewalks and curbs and things. But, when you establish a traffic pattern by painting it, it's only as good as being able to see the paint.
Which fades, too. Which fades.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be out there repainting.
What you want, you got job security as the painter. If you are a line painter in the city of Kingston, the whole city's painted.
I'd like to return just quickly and in closing, as it were. We're getting near closing.
We're getting close to the end.
Yes.
And 331-9255, if anybody has any last-minute thoughts.
The notion that I think it's a Ways and Means Committee that held hearings, so-called, on the county budget, the 2020 proposed budget, Ryan budget.
Yeah.
That they almost nobody went to these hearings because, quite frankly, I'm a journalist and it's very hard to understand. They hand you a budget with 800 pages, and then they look at you and say, "Do you have any questions?" I mean, you just saw the thing, and the people have voted with their feet on that one. Nobody turns out, but the recommendations of the committee are more of what we're talking about. Here is a committee, or here is a group, the legislature, which says we control the purse.
Yeah.
Well, you got the purse right in your hands.
Right.
And you look in the purse and you say, it's full. And it's going to stay that way. These people barely tweaked it. I mean, barely. I don't know what the definition of tweak is, but I think about 1%, if that.
No, they didn't even get to 1/3%.
No, it's like what the bank gives you or your money market gives you. They had they made some headlines by eliminating a few jobs. Ryan restored 125 jobs in this budget.
Yeah.
If there was a watershed, the first watershed moment was when I think properly looked at the budget. The pandemic was setting in. Really didn't know what this thing was about. Nobody did, not just Pat. Didn't know what it was about. So let's tighten our belts here, and he did. He went from $350 million back down to $330. Well, now apparently he thinks, and he knows he's wrong now. Happy days are here again, but this COVID is hanging on and increasing, and it's getting scary again.
Yep.
But to restore almost all those jobs, and then add a few more to it, like the taxpayers' pocketbooks were endless. And I know they'll make the argument, well, we never raised it. We never raised
They
taxes.
seem to focus on the jobs that were in his office.
More so.
And they didn't remove any other jobs other than those that were direct reports to the executive or whatever. All the other lines that he backfilled or whatever, that he's not even gonna hire people for. Is they could have listen. You've gotten away without having these lines filled for 2 years. You don't need them. But no, yeah, you're right. And if on a $350 million or $330 million budget, if you didn't cut that, if cutting the budget by $1 million would be a third of 1%, they didn't even. They maybe a tenth of 1% is what they cut this thing.
That's 99.7%.
Absolutely,
as presented.
They did nothing. Essentially, is what you're saying, and this is where I take the Republicans to task. They all run on the conservative line. They're supposed to be fiscal conservatives, yet not one of them came to that meeting, including their minority leader, with a game plan for let's eliminate 50 jobs. Let's reduce taxes. Did you see a proposal to reduce taxes there? I didn't. There's plenty of money around to do that.
Yeah, Dutch has reduced its tax rate by about 10%, didn't it?
Yeah.
So it's
and Donaldson was here telling us that was because their tax rate was so high to begin with. All right, yeah, okay.
You know, Donaldson raised, while he was here, and I don't think we followed up on it much, and I'm not sure it's going to happen either, but that the county is looking at the possibility of overriding in some fashion or creating a housing authority, a countywide housing authority.
Oh.
Which would override
local,
and you were on planning boards and things in the town of Ulster.
Yeah.
Imagine a county coming into Ulster or any town and saying, we want to build so many units of whatever housing, and not necessarily on county property either, in your community. How that's going to fly.
Yeah, I think they should start in Gardner and then go to Woodstock and New Paltz. Those would be the three areas, because the rest of the communities have plenty of affordable housing. Remember when they tried to put affordable housing in Woodstock, Rupco?
Yeah, it's exactly Rupco.
I thought they were going to burn the town down.
Burn
all those liberals out there who want us to have affordable housing, they just don't want it in Woodstock. Yeah.
And it's been a model. It's been a model development.
Yeah,
it's tucked away. And it's gorgeous, and it's like most of, I wouldn't say gorgeous, most of Rupco's projects, but they are serviceable and they're well run, and they do serve a very important. But they have to fight tooth and nail to locate.
They have an interesting project going on right now. Rupco does. They want to build affordable housing for people who work at the Hunter and Wyndham ski areas. They want to build 80 units of affordable housing on the mountaintop.
Wow.
So my question to you is, why do people who work for one of the largest ski employers in the world, because Hunter is owned by a big company now.
Oh, it's not locally owned, the Slutskis and so
40 or 50 ski areas. There, why do they why do they need affordable housing? Why aren't they paid appropriately? A lift ticket's like $80-something. What's going on there?
You know, you're going to be drummed out of the Republican Party. You start talking like that we ought to pay. Because we have the money. Wait a minute, let me finish. Pay people a livable wage. Instead of stuffing it all in your pocket.
This is like supplementing a huge corporate company. All right, listen, you can underpay your people because we're going to build housing for them so that you guys don't have to pay them enough money to live on. What the hell's that about?
You're turning into a communist.
Well, no, I'm just thinking that's our tax money, by the way, that goes into these Rupco projects. I mean, they get all their money from out of Albany. And the last time I checked, I was writing a big check to Albany, and they're recirculating, and it comes back down. And I think it's Vail Resorts. I think owns Hunter now.
That's big.
Oh yeah,
really? Vail owns Hunter?
Oh yeah, they own Hunter, and I think they own Wyndham as well. But
Wow.
they own about 30 or 35 or 40 resorts around the country.
Wow. I tell you, from living in Vail, Vail Associates doesn't play. They take good care of their mountains, their equipment. Usually it's up to date. Never have to worry about getting hurt. That's good to know.
But, yeah. So my point is, why they said the average salary at Hunter Mountain is $15 an hour. You know, some of those jobs are really tough jobs.
That's probably for the lift op. I'm sure, like the snowcat guy that's grooming snow.
Yeah.
You know, from midnight to 8 is
maybe.
making more than that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but they said
But that's a privately run company, though, right?
Yeah.
It's not publicly traded, right?
I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I don't think it is. I don't
think
they're.
I've never seen them on the big board.
Yeah. But they're buying up a lot of eastern resorts now. You know, the individual operators here in the east started to get the message that we weren't getting cold winters anymore.
Right.
I mean, and so they needed deeper pockets to.
Hunter actually has an advantage. They got a big lake at the bottom of their, the bottom of their mountain, and they can use that to blow snow. However, if you don't get a lot of rain, you don't get a lot of precipitation, then it's a double-edged sword. So.
Yeah. But anyway, so that's the latest RUPCO project, and they're having a lot of difficulty up there because people are like, wait a second, we don't understand this. Why do we need, because they get all kinds of tax breaks. They don't pay, they don't pay property taxes on some of these properties and the whole works. And folks up there, and then they wanted I know what happened. They wanted $350,000 from Greene County to contribute, and
Greene County doesn't fly that
I was
way.
going to say, Greene County doesn't have $350 grand probably to kick up.
Yeah, and the legislature's, I think, 10-4 Republican, and so there's been a little pushback and whatnot.
I bet.
But the guys at RUPCO, they're pretty slick. We ought to get them on here because
I would they do a lot of good work. Lawrence, how much time do we actually have left?
You got 3 minutes and 58 seconds.
Okay, I would like to close on, if I may, on a Thanksgiving theme.
Sure.
It's been a very, in many ways, difficult year for many people, and Thanksgiving is a time to be thankful for what we do have. You mentioned it was 2 weeks ago when I was, as you said, under the weather, and I was actually under the knife, and that I phoned it in. That's an old expression in my business that when you phone it in, you really, you're goofing off. But I had some. I don't know if I'd call it major, but I was operated on for some things that needed to be fixed, and thank God everything went very well. But and I'm thankful to my doctors and nurses and caregivers. I'm not very thankful to the system of COVID testing that really was very difficult and frustrating.
Very cumbersome.
And very unnecessary. If they haven't got this thing down by now, they ought to have it. But and of course, my family, we're fairly tight. We keep in touch. My boys and of course Phyllis, and they were behind me. But I'm thankful to our listeners and my readers in the blog who when you said I was under the weather, apparently thought the worst of what might be happening. And you and I are no longer spring chickens, so when we do go in for some major medical things, it can be a serious thing. And so many people express support and concern, and either called me up or sent me emails. I don't do Facebook. Phyllis does that with her wonderful pictures. And we don't often hear, or I don't often hear from my, as much as I'd like to, from my fans, so-called. but they're out there, and it was very personal, very gratifying to hear back from them, and it helps a lot, I think, in my recovery, and so I'm especially thankful this year for our audience.
Yeah, I mean, I announced that I didn't give up anything. I didn't want to tell people you had surgery because, that sounds a lot worse than it is sometimes. Yeah. But it's nice to hear that we actually have people who care about you.
I don't particularly care for you.
No, I know.
That's a miracle.
Lawrence doesn't, but that's okay. You can't get them all.
No, you can't.
No, it's good to hear you're doing better. But listen, not to cut you off, we are 20 seconds over the thing, and I don't want Pamela to hit me with any extra charges than we get already.
Yeah, the time and a
You
half.
two, thank you so much. Another great show. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Everyone, have a great weekend. We'll be back Monday with Medical Monday.